I need your name so that I will call you on stage to light one of the candles. Please? Huh? Oh, come here. Can you come over? I'd like to get your full name.
Ben. He's a friend and a patient too. I will. I just gave a talk, asked questions with the entire information. Near DRC, yeah. What's the... It was about health and pollution. Things like that. Yes, we do. Arlene.
I'm sorry, I don't know how hard I change bags. I'll be making when I just drop it.
Yeah, sure. Ambassador Chito was talking a lot about
Okay, good afternoon again, especially to our honored guests. We would like to start the program with a ceremony that will be led for us by the Deputy Head of Mission of the State of Israel in the Philippines, Ms. Yulia Rechinsky. Good afternoon to everybody, to our distinguished guests. I would like to mention a few of them that took a personal part in organizing this ceremony. So first of all, I would like to thank Ms. Debuque from UNIC for taking this initiative in the organization. Then Mr. Gonzalez Macorsa from Department of Foreign Affairs. Mr. Blumenthal from the Jewish community here in the Philippines, and Mr. Guerrero from ICCP, the president of ICCP. Today we commemorate 6 million Jews that were murdered during the Holocaust that took place in Europe between 1939 and 1945. The United Nations envisioned this day, which is called International Holocaust Remembrance Day, in October 2005. And every nation commemorates the victims of the Holocaust on this very special day. In Israel, we commemorate the victims on our National Holocaust Day, which takes place in April. And on this very day, we have the tradition of lighting the candles, lighting 6 candles in the memory of 6 million Jews that were murdered. So today we are going to do here this ceremony. We will be calling people one by one on the stage to light the candle. Okay, so first I would like to call on stage Mr. Lee Blumenthal, the head of the Jewish community in the Philippines. And then Mr. Itamar Jero, the President of the Israel Chamber of Commerce of the Philippines. Director Arlene Gonzalez Macaisa of the DFA UNIO. our student representative, John Emmanuel Malbas, from the Pamantasan ng Lungsod ng Manila. And I'm honored to light one of the candles myself. So. And Miss Yulia Rachinsky, the Deputy Chief of Mission of the Embassy of the State of Israel. I'd like to request our operator in the booth to please let us all stand. We may now take our seats. So thank you so much for being part of this commemoration of Holocaust for 2018. We have been doing this for many years now and in partnership with the Embassy of Israel in Manila. So now I would like to show you a video message from UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres.
Today, we remember the 6 million Jewish men, women and children who perished in the Holocaust. Countless others also lost their lives as cruelty convulsed the world. Yet, decades since the Second World War, we see the persistence of anti-Semitism and an increase in other forms of prejudice. Neo-Nazis and white supremacy groups are among the main purveyors of extreme hatred, and too often, vile views are moving from the margins to the mainstream of societies and politics. We must stand together against the normalization of hate. Whenever and wherever humanity's values are abandoned, we are all at risk. All of us have a responsibility to quickly, clearly and decisively resist racism and violence. Through education and understanding, we can build a future of dignity, human rights, and peaceful coexistence for all.
Okay. Yulian, may I request permission if you could put out the lights, because they said it might trigger the fire alarms. All right. Can somebody? Okay. So you will have a briefing conducted for us by Ms. Kuczynski, but before that, I would like to read a message, well, part of the remarks given by the Secretary General at the Park East Synagogue in New York last January 20. So he encouraged us to share part of these these remarks at the synagogue. So I will read it for you. This year marks the 80th anniversary of Kristallnacht, the night of broken glass, on which so many Jewish synagogues, shops, and other centers of life were destroyed. As terrible as that night was, we know it was a warning sign of far worse to come. And so on this day, we have two fundamental duties. The first is to remember the utter evil and systematic attempt to eliminate the Jewish people. Our second duty is to be ever watchful of dark clouds on the horizon. After all, the Holocaust did not happen in a vacuum. It was the culmination of hatred and hostility toward Jews across the millennia. All of us today have a special obligation, an obligation to never lose sight of what went wrong and how it happened, and an obligation to be ever vigilant in the face of persistent anti-Semitism and other forms of hate in our time. The state of our world is messy, and the state of hate is high. Almost 80 years after the fall of the Nazi regime, its symbols, mindsets, and language are very much with us. Some still seek to deny or diminish the fact of the Holocaust. Others downplay the complicity of their citizens and former political leaders, and we see example after example of the rise of the neo-Nazi threat. Neo-Nazis and their supporters are very actively doing something else that is a source of concern. They are busy trying to rebrand themselves, to come across somehow as something different, as kinder and gentler, to win wider favor. They are less crude, but more dangerous. Their goal is clear. As one said, to make the mainstream come to us, to align with others on the far right, to push the boundaries of acceptable conversation farther and farther. And it's working. Hardcore extremists have been described as being unable to contain their glee at the newly opened doors to their hateful ideas. They sometimes seek to falsely claim that they have no problem with the Jews. Their target is the other group, the other religion, the other minority. Whenever and wherever humanity's values are abandoned, we are all at risk. As the former chief rabbi of the United Kingdom, Lord Jonathan Sacks, said, "The hate that begins with Jews never ends with Jews." We must stand together against the normalization of hate. We must stand up to political opportunists who profit by scapegoating and vilification. We must reject those who fail to understand that as societies become multi-ethnic, multi-religious, and multicultural, diversity must be seen as a source of richness and not of threat. The theme of this year's Holocaust Remembrance Day highlights the importance of education as a shared responsibility. The United Nations and the Holocaust Outreach Program will continue to do its part. Leaders across the board must step up. Words matter. It matters what leaders say. It matters what kind of example is set by public officials, from mayors to ministers to heads of state. We must never be bystanders when lives and values are at stake. Let us stand up to hatred. Let us work together to build a world of pluralism, mutual respect, and coexistence for all. So those are the words of our Secretary General, Antonio Guterres. Now, I would like to give the floor to Ms. Kuczynski for our student briefing. Julia, you have the floor.
Will we be able to put the presentation on? So thank you all for being here today. I
I'm not sure how much do you know about the events that took place in Europe in the years of 1939 until 1945. But the tragedy that took place back then, it is still with us. So many people have lost their lives during this time. Until now, every family in Israel has a memory of its beloved ones that were perished in the Holocaust. So today we commemorate the International Holocaust Remembrance Day. Like you already heard, 6 million Jews, men, women, children, elderly people, were brutally tortured and slaughtered by Nazi Germany. And it all started in a democratic way in 1939. Shortly after the Nazi Party in Germany won the elections, they indeed were elected by their own people, because Germany back then was still trying to get out of the mess that was left after the World War I. And the Nazi Party, the German Nazi Party, were the one that were believed to deliver the needs of the German people back there. But apparently they had their hidden agenda, the racist theory. How many of you have heard about the racist theory? You can raise your hands. Only one, really? Nazis prioritized people based on their race, on their color, and on their religion. They believed that Jews were inferior. Jews specifically were at the bottom of the humankind. Not because they were bad people, not because they were some kind of bad characters, evil, but simply because they were Jews. And the most surprising fact is that they just chased not only pure Jews. They chased everybody that had Jewish blood in their veins. So even if you had Jewish blood in the third generation, which means your grandfather were Jewish, you already were a target of the Nazi regime. Which means, just for an illustration, do you know Elizabeth Zimmerman Duterte? Right? Who is she? Who can tell me who is she?
First wife of
Some of the students, maybe? She is the first wife of your current president, right? So she is a descendant of a Jewish family that came here to the Philippines during World War II. And if we were living in the times of Nazi regime right now, she would have been slaughtered as well, because her grandfather was Jewish. So that is just crazy, judging people according to their origin, according to their race, even without knowing them. Those 1.5 million children that we are talking about today, the exhibition that is just presented here kindly by the UN, based on the illustrations of those children that were murdered in the Holocaust. They were just simple children, like we were. I was thinking just yesterday, before this ceremony, I was thinking about a butterfly. What does a butterfly really mean? Why did they choose a butterfly as the theme of this exhibition? And for me, butterfly is a symbol of freedom. So just imagine being locked behind bars and watching a butterfly flying out there. How does it make you feel? And those children, that's what the images that they were seeing during this time. So let me just show you briefly, if you can go to the next slide, please. No, to the beginning. Can you go to the beginning? Yeah, next. Jews used to have a normal, regular life in Europe before the war started. They used to have theaters. They used to have neighbors that were European Christians, and it was really there was a coexistence between the Jewish population and their neighbors in their countries of state. Next, please. And then all of a sudden, well, I wouldn't say all of a sudden because it was actually a gradual process, but you move to these horrible images, which were taken in concentration camps that were established by Nazis during the war. Next, please. That Hitler came to power. Yes, next. It was actually a program, because they didn't know, well, historians actually, they argue about the term final solution, but we have the term final solution, which refers to the, organized annihilation of the Jewish people. Historians argue whether it was the initial program of the Nazis when they came to power, or was it just developed later on. We know for sure that by autumn 41, the SS and the police, they started to introduce mobile gas vans. So they were just thinking, okay, we have to get rid of the Jewish population. So let's just think about creative ways how we can do it. Just think how crazy that is. Just to put all of your energy into eliminating people, just normal people. It doesn't matter if they are Jews, if they are gypsies, which were also target of the Nazi regime. Disabled people, they entered the hospitals and just killed disabled people. So the trucks, the gas vans, it was the first step in their program on the way to the final solution. Those trucks had exhaust pipes, which were reconfigured to pump poisonous gas into sealed spaces. People were simply loaded into the trucks. They were taken to rides, and during these rides, they died. And there were cases when they just loaded children that were playing on the streets, just asking them to get into the truck, take them to a ride, and they never get out of the truck. You can move to the next slide. Yes, next one. The ghettos. Do you know what this word means?
Yes.
Ghetto? Yes, please. Can you tell me what does it mean?
A small town for people.
Yeah, it was an enclosed area in different cities all across Europe that Jews were asked to be removed to it from their original houses. So normally, in every European city, they used to have one Jewish street, and they built the ghettos around this street. Sometimes there were 4 to 5 families just in one bedroom. They had quotas for food, and the quota was, maybe some of you already started to count calories. So the quota for these Jewish families, it was 40 calories a day. Okay, so you can just imagine how impossible it is. And it was literally impossible to get food into the ghetto. So they would have to find ways how to get out of the ghetto and maybe exchange for their jewelry that they had or some other items that were precious to them in order to get food. And a lot of Jewish population died already in this state when they were enclosed in ghettos. They used to have what we call pogroms, like the Crystal Nacht that Ms. Debuque has mentioned before, when they just entered the ghettos one day during the night normally and just started shooting all over And then in Europe they started to dig pits. And they brought people to these pits and just shoot them. And then the other ones that were standing behind them, they were supposed to cover the bodies with mud, and then they were shooting them. This was a continuous project for the SS. My family originally comes from Ukraine, which is a country in Eastern Europe, the neighbor of Russia, which you probably know. And they had one of the biggest pits in all the Soviet Union. So the Germans invaded Soviet Union in 1941, 2 years after the war started. The war started with the invasion to Poland. But then they invaded the Soviet Union, and that was actually the point where the final solution got into force. So my family, one of my grandmothers, she was married to a Ukrainian, and there were all kinds of rumors across the city that the Germans are coming and the Jews have to run away. But they couldn't believe it, because the human mind simply cannot grasp that another human can do such a horrible thing. So there were all kinds of rumors, but they just simply denied it, It couldn't happen, We're all humans. So how can we do it to each other? So my grandfather was thinking, okay, I'm married to Ukrainian, nothing's going to happen to me. But there were other neighbors, Ukrainians also, that just pointed out to her apartment, and she was taken to this pit, and she is buried there, today. My grandmother, she flew to another country because she was warned and she believed the rumors. So that's why I'm standing here in front of you and represent my country, which is the country of Jewish people, Israel. And that's only my story, but practically in every family in Israel, you have similar stories like that. Can you please move to next slide? That's some pictures from the ghettos. Next, please. The people in the ghettos, they were obliged to put a yellow star, which says Jude on it. If you were caught without a star on the street, you were shot immediately, because they had to recognize that you were a Jew. Next, please. Next. Next. First concentration camps started in Poland. Like I said, they invaded Poland in 1939, and it was a killing center. So, and whole apparatus of the huge Nazi machine was established in order to kill Jewish population. Again, it was not only Jewish, but most of the victims were Jewish. So the first were Belzec, Sobibor, and Treblinka, which are concentration camps. You have it preserved until now in Poland. Every student of an Israeli high school goes to Poland to watch these places, and they've been protected by UNESCO as sites of heritage. What do you think is the reason that UN decided to protect these sites? Wouldn't it be just better to destroy them, to erase all memory about it? Do you think there is a particular reason for us to preserve these places? Because that's places of suffering, of horror. Somebody? Anybody? Yes, please, over there.
Because if you're going to destroy it, maybe people in the next generation might not know the story of this, and they might alter the version. So, in order to not alterate it, to narrate it its original and true version, we should be there, and so that everyone will learn what happened.
That's true. Yeah, that's the truth. Because we have to remember to avoid it happening again. That's why we are here today. And that's why in Israel we have a commemoration Holocaust Remembrance Day every day. And the alarm that you just heard today, that's the alarm that we have all over the country. And all the traffic, everything just stops for a minute in order to stand and to give honor to these people. Next, please. Yeah, I can move to next.
Two shiploads of Jewish refugees from Europe attempt to land in Palestine, only to be turned away by the British and shipped to internment on Cyprus. The British mandate in Palestine was about to end, however, and the United Nations was debating the partition of Palestine between the Jews and the Arabs as a solution to the turmoil in that country. Israel has flourished to become a constructive voice in world affairs. Her flag became a symbol of hope in a troubled world.
There were some points of light in all this terrible history, part of our history. There is a book that its name is Bloodlands. So that's exactly the name of what it was back then in Europe. It was a land of blood. But these spots of light that I'm talking about are the writers of the nations. There were people all over the world that endangered themselves in order to save Jews. They just gave them shelter, gave them food, and they knew that the moment they will be caught by an SS officer, or by a German policeman, or by a local community head that works for the Nazi regime, they will be killed. All of the family will be killed. And there were people with children that, even though they knew this fact, they still put themselves into risk, and they approached their Jewish neighbors, or sometimes people that they didn't even know, and they saved their lives. And now in Israel we have an institution that is called Yad Vashem, which is in charge of commemorating and also of the research part of the history of the Holocaust. And every year they receive so many stories from all over the world about people that saved the Jews during the war. And they award them the title of the Writers of Nation. And we have, they plant a tree for every person that was recognized as the Writers of Nation. And the reason that I'm telling you that is not only for your basic knowledge, but just to know that your country, the Philippines, is also a spot of light in the darkness. Because your president, Quezon, was the one that opened the doors of your country to European, German, and Austrian Jews. Did you know that? So that's one of our mutual points in our history that makes our country so close. And that's why Philippines was among the first countries that we abolished the visa regime. And now Filipino citizens can freely enter Israel with no need to get a visa. Because of this fact. Because of the fact that 1,200 Jews were saved here in the Filipino land. And we still have descendants, the one that I mentioned before. So we would like to thank you for that. Thank you for being there for us. And I hope that we will be there for you as well, if you need us. And on this point, I would like to conclude my presentation. And I would like you, just on your free time, to think about what you heard today and try to make an effort in your life to not repeat this history and transfer it to your children as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Julia.
So students, the reason that the United Nations has deemed it essential to have a day just to commemorate the memory of the victims of the Holocaust is so that we remember never to forget the lessons from that dark, sad period in our global history. So anyway, as many of you have seen while viewing the exhibit, you might be wondering why the exhibit is called the Butterfly Project. The Butterfly Project was launched in 1996 by the Holocaust Museum, Houston, in order to commemorate the 1.5 million children who perished during the Holocaust. So students were encouraged to submit butterflies of all shapes and sizes, and they are exhibited in the museum in Houston. Actually, one butterfly even arrived from space. American astronaut Rex Valheim participated in the Butterfly Project in July 2011 while aboard the final mission of Space Shuttle Atlantis. So, now, why butterflies? So aside from what Yulia said earlier, the Butterfly Project was inspired by a poem by Pavel Friedman. He wrote this poem while he was in a concentration camp. And you can view the exhibit later and you will see the poem written by Pavel. He talks about the beautiful butterflies and that he wishes that he would see another butterfly, but he won't, because butterflies cannot be found in the ghettos. So his poem was found after he had died in Auschwitz and after the camp was liberated. So that is the inspiration for the Butterfly Project. Now, we come now to the film screening of Children of the Holocaust, which was shared with us by the Holocaust and the United Nations Outreach Program. It was specifically developed to appeal to young people. So please, we thank you for attention and for viewing this film. Thank you. Can we dim the house lights so that the audience will have a better viewing experience?